Yo, 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 how you doing? It is Andrew Hawks here. You can call me Doc Drew, and it is great to be here with you on this, I was going to say it's a fine morning, but it's not because it's already raining outside, I can tell you. And I know it's going to be muggy as all hell because it has been the entire time we've been here. Of course, if you don't know, we're in Tokyo, Japan. First time to Japan, and I'm absolutely loving it. Heard many, many good stories about Japan from my uncle who served here years and years and years ago. But we won't talk about that. Anyway, it is great to be here with you. As I said, my name is Andrew Hawks. You can call me Doc Drew. You can follow me over at Instagram at Andrew Hawks Online. You can also follow me on TikTok at Andrew Hawks Online, or YouTube. If you watch me on YouTube, hey, how you doing? I hope you're well. Of course, we're streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and on TikTok this morning. Well, it's this morning for me. It's great to be here with you. We're going to continue our conversation now. A little bit of a, I don't know, it's not even a deep dive really. It's just a bit of a surface overview of the DeFi space, and today we're going to talk about code. We're going to talk about smart contracts. But what I would like to say before anything else is that anything I do say today is based upon my experience, my opinion, my wisdom that I've gained through the system and the things that I have learnt, and none of it should be constituted as financial advice at all. In fact, if you continue watching it, then you accept the fact that you need to go out and do your own research. You need to go out and make sure that if you are getting into a project, and there's plenty to look at, that it is something that you are okay with, that you have done your research, that you are responsible for, not anyone else. And that is the problem in today's society, is that everybody expects everybody else to be responsible for them. Not everybody. There's obviously a few people that don't expect that, and you can see them getting ahead in life. You can see them being successful. So there's a key in that, maybe, potentially. I don't know. I'm just rambling now. Well, actually, I'm not. It is the 17th of July. It is my wedding anniversary. I've been married 17 years today. We got married, ironically, on a Thursday in Byron Bay in Australia. It was a beautiful day. And Sarah and I both laughed and joked that our wedding song should be Paradise by Dashboard Light by Meatloaf. Now, if you're not sure what that song is, I invite you to go and have a listen to the lyrics, and that's why it was just a little bit of an in-joke. But anyway, here we are. Great to be here with you this morning. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about, as I said, about DeFi, about the DeFi space. We're going to talk about smart contracts. So yesterday we went over Web3. We talked about Web3 freedom. We talked about people encroaching on your rights, or organizations encroaching on your rights. Is a really good example of this right now. Come the 19th of July, Australia will be locked into, and I don't live in Australia, and I'm not an Australian citizen, I'm a Kiwi, I'm a New Zealand citizen. But Australia will be locked into the World Health Organization Pandemic Treaty, which basically gives an unelected body, the World Health Organization, unfettered rights, unfettered access to do whatever they want to the citizens. And most people don't understand the depth and danger of that bill. But anyway, that's a completely different story. Potentially, it's not necessarily completely different, because if things were done through blockchain, if there was a vote carried out through Web3, you'd probably find, because you can't change the votes, obviously, you probably find that most people would be against that. So Web3 definitely is the way to go in that sense, even if for nothing else, but for voting rights and things like that. And of course, it leads perfectly into today's topic, which is smart contracts. Because in smart contracts, it's written in code. It doesn't care what the weather's doing. It doesn't care who's in power. It doesn't care about unelected officials. It only cares about what the people want, the people that vote on it. So, the governance through smart contracts and through things like DAOs is really quite revolutionary, if you like. And it gives the power back to us where it should be. If you are just joining us on TikTok, then come and tap that screen, let us know you're here. I appreciate you there. And on Facebook and YouTube, give us some love, give us some hearts, let me know you're there as well. And this is making sense and landing for you. If you are just joining me, head over to drewsdaily.com. You can grab the Sovereign Wealth Kit there. It will show you different paths that are available to you. The DeFi checklist, just some little things that you can check off and to ensure that you are on the right path for yourself and potentially for your family as well. But great to be here with you again this morning, as I've said. So, what if the future of trust isn't people? What if the future of trust isn't people? What if it's written in code? It's programmable, so you can that may leave room for bad actors to write bad code. Yeah, possibly. But if it's all auditable, and I've said this before, if you're unsure about what a smart contract is or how it works or what potential fish hooks are in it, then you can copy the smart contract, because they're all, if they're in a legitimate space, they're going to be open source so that you can see them. You'll be able to go to the Explorer, you'll be able to see the smart contracts, you'll be able to copy those, and you'll be able to put them in ChatGPT or your favorite AI tool, whether it's Claude, Gemini, whatever side of the fence you're on, it doesn't really matter. But you can literally ask for the TLDR. Yep, TLDR. Too long, didn't read. You could literally put it in and say, hey, can you please summarize this for me? Look for any fish hooks or anything that I should be aware of or should be wary of. And it will literally spit it out and say, this is what the contract looks like. Say you want it explained like you're 5. So that's a way that you can start to empower yourself to learn more about that ecosystem. In fact, you could use any of those AI agents or mechanisms to find out more, to educate yourself. In fact, a lot of people now are using it. They're ditching the likes of Duolingo, which I've been using now for, I think I'm on a 552-day streak or something like that, for learning Espanol. But people are ditching the likes of Duolingo and doing it through ChatGPT because they're learning faster and they're learning multiple languages at once. So anyway, we're not here to talk about AI, we're here to talk about smart contracts. So trust is the problem in the space right now. And again, with good reason. We're going to go back over the last 5 years to see that there's been things that have happened to erode any sort of trust that was potentially there to begin with, right? It's gone. Now, there's still some places that are continuing to follow the narrative, and I won't use the superlatives that I'd like to, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Trust is the big problem. Can I really trust in what you're saying? Can I really trust in what the media is saying? Personally, no, I don't think so. But that's why citizen journalism has had such an increase over the last 5 years. And that's also why there's been so much censorship, because the truth getting out and all that sort of thing. But trust is absolutely the problem. How do we know something is what it says it is? Do we take someone's word for it? Do we need to see it written in an agreement somewhere? Do we need to see it written in code? That's what smart contracts do. It allows for us to literally have that written in code. It will execute a certain way. There's no emotion attached to it. There's no hidden agenda. There's no way somebody, once it's executed, once it starts, once this protocol starts rolling and it is operational, that's it. It can't be rolled back until the end of that contract. Now, that contract may be infinite. That may be used for ROIs in a staking situation, right? It could be used for APYs. Once it's established, it operates until it is run its protocol. And again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care who's in power. It doesn't care what the weather's doing. It doesn't care how you feel today. It's emotionless. It just is. It just keeps executing the way that it is supposed to execute. Now, think of it in this way, and this you've possibly heard horror stories of somebody purchasing a house or retaining a law firm that they didn't get enough information about, and they wired these people some money. Particularly the real estate transaction is a really good one. It's meant to be wired into a trust account and held in escrow until the deal is finished, until it's completed, so that all parties are protected, right? It's sitting in a trust account. That trust account's meant to be audited and yada, yada, yada. But what if you were told it was a trust account and you wired the money there and it wasn't? Have you got any recourse? Probably not. If it's a bad actor, they've probably already taken your money and they've already gone. Whereas smart contracts allow the ability for you to send funds to a certain place and have them locked up in there until all of the criteria are met. And that's why we will see more and more of this moving forward. Not necessarily as a system of control, but as a way of ensuring that everybody is who they say they are and are going to do what they say they would do. So institutional breakdowns can be a big part of the issue, obviously. Banks, legal systems, escrow fraud, data leaks. Trust is earned, but often assumed. Trust is earned, but it is often assumed. We look at a bank and we go, well, of course, they're a bank. You know, they're meant to look after our money. They're the custodians. Oh, yes, they're the government. They've been voted by the people, so they're going to do the people's bidding. Really good examples of things that are not what they say they are, aren't they? But the recurring pattern in all of this, the thing that always comes up. Oh, maybe I should have had caffeine this morning. Anyway, I didn't get up and go for a walk this morning. I've been a naughty boy. Anyway, the things that always comes up is human error. And I remember a meme back in the day before memes actually existed. So it was a little cartoon that was hanging in the flight store of where you used to get things. The flight store was a supply store for parts, auto parts, when I was working as a mechanic in the Air Force. And it said to err is human. Because like they've typed it wrong. To err is human, but it takes a computer to really louse things up. But if the code is written correctly, then we're not going to have a problem. But the recurring pattern is human error. It's greed. It's bureaucracy. It's this red tape that we can't seem to get through, going over and over and over again, right? When it's written into the code, we can take it, we can look at it, we can break it down and say, yes, this is for us, this is perfect, or no, this isn't something that I want to do. And you know up front and you know ahead of time what you're getting into. It's not like, it's not the old bait and switch that politicians do. They're like, they always use these promises to get elected. If I get elected, I'll do blah, 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 blah. They get elected and proceed to do precisely nothing. Or even, in some cases, the opposite of what the people want. So there was a referendum in Australia last year. If you wonder why I talk about Australia a lot, because I did live there for 16 years. But there was a referendum in Australia last year about the voice, about giving Indigenous folks a voice in Parliament. Now, I don't have a problem with that, by the way. They already have a voice in Parliament. But it was a Trojan. It was completely false as to what it was dressed up as. It was saying it was going to do this when realistically it was actually something more clandestine. And the people voted. And the votes were overwhelming for, hell no, we don't want that. We know what that is. And we don't want it in our system. Cool. The people had voted. That should be it, put to bed, right? Well, the same party got back into power and now they're reintroducing it as something different. So they're always going to continue to try. A smart contract can't be changed. Once it's entered into, that's it. And that's the beauty of it. They're designed to execute exactly as they're written. No interpretation, no negotiation. And that's important for you to remember if you are putting your hard-earned funds somewhere or value somewhere for you to be able to leverage and benefit from. And again, good time to say, this isn't financial advice. This is just my opinion, my experience, my findings after almost 10 years in this space that is ever evolving, that is changing rapidly, daily. And you need to be on top of it if you want to stay ahead of it. So if you are just joining us, head over to drewsdaily.com. You can grab the Sovereign Wealth Kit that will talk a little bit more about this sort of stuff. And there's also a DeFi checklist that you can grab and you can find out more. If you want to know who I am, who I help and what I do, then by all means reach out. There's a button there for you to be able to WhatsApp me. So let's have a chat. Let's open the conversation. So what really is a smart contract? It's just code. Literally, it's code. And it runs an if-then logic. Now, you may or may not have heard this little yarn about the programmer. The wife sends her husband to the supermarket and he's a programmer, right? Sends the wife to the wife sends the husband to the supermarket and says, "Hey, can you grab some milk? If they've got eggs, get 6." And he comes back with 6 bottles of milk, and the wife's like, "Well, I told you to get eggs if they had 6." He goes, "No. You said get milk. If they've got eggs, get 6." So the instruction was get milk. If they have eggs, get 6 of what was already, and that's just logic, right? That's program logic. There's a little bit of it took me years to understand that joke, but it's really, really funny once you do. But we can use our vending machine analogy again as well. So when we go to a vending machine, and Japan is a really good place for vending machines, they've got vending machines literally everywhere. You can get a whole complete meal out of a vending machine if you chose to. Although there's so many great little places to eat. We went to this place last night. Oh my goodness. Yakanuku? I don't even know. I've butchered the pronunciation of that, but it's a meat restaurant. It's basically a barbecue place. It was so good. So good. Anyway, so if we're using a vending machine, we put our funds in and we hit B2. And in B2, we can see exactly what that is. We've put the money in, we've pressed B2, and the little corkscrew thing happens, and it pushes the item out, whether it's a bottle of water, whether it's a chocolate bar, whether it's a packet of chips, whether it's ramen, and it drops down. If it's ramen, it probably doesn't drop down because you're going to have hot water and stuff in there as well. There will have been a mechanism for that. Anyway, it knows exactly, because you've gone, and it's got if-then logic. It says, okay, if somebody hits B2, then you push B2 out and it comes out and they get their items so they can eat it and they can drink it or whatever it is. But there's no middleman. It's just logic. And that's exactly how a smart contract works. It's written down. If this happens, then do that. If this happens, then do this. If this happens, then execute that. So you know ahead of time what's going to happen. If I let's use compound finance, which is one of the oldest ones in the market. And I was actually listening to a podcast yesterday about DYOR. DYOR's changed their name. Okay, so there you go. USDS, I think. Don't quote me on that. But basically, the podcast that I was listening to was one of the founders of Euler, and you know, the compound finance protocol is run on a smart contract. It's one of the originals. It was just, okay, if I put X amount of USDT or DAI, in that case it was DAI. No, compound finance did a lot of different ones. It was many different platforms. It was an aggregator, and it would give you the best deals of what's going on. So it says, okay, if I'm going to put 10,000 USDT into this area, if that happens, then you execute this, which is, let's say it's 11% per annum APY that you're going to get. Great. So you're getting that, and that will continue to pay on a daily basis. This is the beauty of these things, right? It'll continue to pay on a daily basis, and that balance will start to grow. And you'll be then using compound finance, which is, of course, the 8th wonder of the world, according to Albert Einstein. So that's essentially it, right? It doesn't get much more complicated than that. The issue is that most people don't yet understand it. And I say yet because, and look, maybe some people will never understand it. Not you, though, because you're here and you're showing up. And you're curious about it, so you're going to do the work to go and find out more about it. And if it's not important to you, you won't, and that's okay. I'm not here to judge. You either will or you won't. You'll find out more about how it works. As I said, if you go, oh man, I don't know computer science, I don't know coding, I don't know any of that shit. Neither did I. When I first moved to Australia, 3 weeks after I got married, which of course is 17 years today, I didn't have the money or the funds. In fact, I just did a post about our anniversary, and we literally booked a one-way ticket to Australia to get married. We didn't know how we were getting home. We didn't know what we were doing. We were going through a pretty rough time at that point in time in our lives. Ironically, we still got married. Not rough time between Sarah and I. We were good. We were gold. Other parties, other players. But we booked one-way tickets to get to the wedding. We had to use the money that came in our wishing well, people, instead of, in lieu of gifts, people wouldn't give gifts, we'd say, because we couldn't fly with them, obviously. We said, hey, in lieu of gifts, we've got a wishing well. So people put money in the wishing well. We used that money to buy tickets to get back to New Zealand. And while we were there, we sold pretty much everything and then moved back to Australia 3 weeks later. So, I can't remember where I was going with that, but it was obviously important. Where are we at? Okay. Now, the beauty with these smart contracts, as I've said, is that they are immutable. What does that mean? It means that no one can change them. It means that no one can change it after the fact. And if we use our voting example that I spoke about yesterday, is... Oh, it's the air conditioner. I was like, I can hear something. What is it? So the example I used yesterday was the Australian election, where they allowed people to write in pencil. That's very easy to change, isn't it? Because you can use an eraser and you can rub that pencil out and then write something else, whatever you want. Now, realistically, at the very least, voting shouldn't be done in pencil, should it? Because that then opens the questions. Is it legit? Whereas if it was done via a smart contract, if it was done on blockchain, then it would be absolutely immutable. It's transparent. You can see what time they did it. So if we've got all of these votes come in at fucking 3 o'clock in the morning, excuse my French, at 3 o'clock in the morning, then we know they're probably not legit, right? So everything's time-stamped, it's transparent, it's permissionless. So you don't need, you could literally do all of that online. You could. You could use your NFT, right? We've spoke about the Soulbound or the Soul NFT yesterday, and the day before maybe. You could use an NFT to verify you are exactly who you say you are, and it doesn't need to have a name to it. That's the beauty, right? Because the NFT knows it contains your identity, so it doesn't need to, and it's a trustless system, so we know that that's all au fait. The only way you could have got that NFT would have been to submit your KYC documents, you'll know your customer documents. So you've got your NFT, you can use that NFT to log into the voting website and then vote via a smart contract. Can't be changed. It's transparent, it's immutable, it's permissionless. Once it's on chain, it runs as intended, unless updated by governance. And again, you have to vote on that. That's the beauty, guys. This is a utopian future, if you like, but it's not that far away and it's not that unrealistic. So what are some real world solutions? Well, I've just given you one, right? But other real world use cases for smart contracts. Obviously, we can use it for voting and actually elect the people that we want to elect rather than them elect themselves. We can use it for lending and borrowing. And now we're getting into that space inside of DeFi that was a really interesting podcast yesterday with one of the founders of Euler, is that they've created a protocol, Euler version 2. The version 1 actually had an exploit, and they've got all the money back. They were exploited $200 million, but they actually got $240 million back. Now, we had to get $240 million because some of it had been converted to ETH, and ETH had moved up, so they ended up getting more back. But their investors did miss out a little bit on the movement, but everyone got made whole, which is beautiful. But version 2 of that is they created a protocol, and of course they looked at compound finance, they looked at all the early DeFi space, and they created a protocol where it literally sets the APY as you're going, based on market conditions, based on how much you're putting in. So they've got a smart contract that executes that. But now they've got to the point where they can collateralize a loan, right? So or holding. So if we were putting that into traditional finance space, in the centralized finance space, that would be like having $1 million sitting in the bank that you're getting interest off, but now you can loan against it. That's pretty cool. You can now do that inside the DeFi space. So you could have $1 million sitting in USDT, sitting there, locked, receiving its reward each and every month or each and every day, however it's set up. And you could say, right, because I've got $1 million worth of collateral there, and it's receiving this, you've got it locked up, it's sitting in escrow, it's sitting in a smart contract that no one can touch, I still have control over it. Okay, it's sitting there. I'm now going to borrow against that so that I can leverage into other assets if I choose to. It's like having your house. You got equity in your house, awesome. Then you could reborrow, refinance against that equity and put that into other money producing assets or whatever. Now we know the difference between assets and liabilities, so we don't need to go on that. But that's the real world stuff. That's there, that it's available for you right now. Collateralized loans happen within seconds. No human approval. Now, if you had $1 million, they might say, okay, to collateralize this, we're not giving you any more than 50% of what you have, and that might even be high, I don't know. But we're not giving you any more than 50%. It's probably okay. But 50% of what you have locked up, right? So let's use that $1 million example, and they've said, okay, we'll give you 50% collateralized on that. We can see your record, it looks good, because remember, everything's on blockchain, everything's immutable. They say, okay, cool, we can now lend you 500,000 USDT because you've got $1 million USDT sitting in here. Great, what can you do with that? Well, you could go and party it up, sure. But a smart person would put that into other income producing assets to help pay that back faster. That's leverage. And that's exactly how you can get ahead. Again, not financial advice, just common sense, realistically, when you think about it. So they happen within seconds with no human approval. No middleman. Trustless. It's great. It's great. So DAOs, we've spoken about that ad nauseum. Governance votes executed by smart contracts. No boardroom. No middleman. No person at the top saying, you know what, now that all these people are here, we're going to change what we said we were going to do. And we're going to do this instead. Imagine politicians having to put everything into a smart contract and saying, if we get elected, this smart contract goes into effect, and these are the things that must be executed. Imagine that. People might actually start trusting politicians again. Maybe it's a pipe dream, but you know what? These are the real world use cases that smart contracts can have. These are the real things that can happen if we start thinking about it properly. We don't need the bureaucracy. We don't need the overbloated systems to say, oh, you can't do that. Or we think you're doing this and we're gonna shut you down. No, everything's there on chain. You can see it all. So there's no hiding from it either. It's, insurance. Crop insurance or flight delay refunds, auto trigger when criteria are met. That's a beautiful one. How many times, and airlines are real good for this, you're entitled to a lot of things if an airline, if certain things happen within an airline. I'll give you a good example. Sarah and I recently flew to Turkey. It was in April. Went to Antalya for an event with Fraser Brooks. Shout out to Fraser, hope you're well, brother. Went to an event with Fraser Brooks in Antalya, Turkey. And we flew Qatar, and we had a 10-hour layover in Qatar. And they went, and we had no idea about this. Oh, well, you've got a 10, and they were very, very good about it. Qatar is a great airline to fly. Not advice, just my experience. And they said, oh, your layover is, because your layover is more than 8 hours, you're entitled to accommodation. It's like, fantastic, because we got in at like, we got in at like maybe 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and our flight the next morning was at 6, so we had to be back at the airport by 4. So like, perfect, that's awesome. Well, it was a 10-hour layover, so maybe we got in at 9, but anyway, or 8:30. By the time we got to bed, it was 10:30, 11, and yeah, we had accommodation. My point about this is that if this is written into a smart contract, and a lot of airlines won't tell you what you're entitled to. If your flight's delayed by X amount of time, then you're entitled to compensation. Now, if that was written into a smart contract, it could literally go, okay, well, we can see the flight has gone dick. Okay, bang. If the flight is delayed by 45 minutes, then execute this. This might be the passenger gets a voucher for $200 or whatever it is, right? Whatever that criteria is, but it's met, and then all of a sudden it's executed. That's just one of the use cases that can be used. Auto trigger when criteria met. So crops failing. If there's a massive storm or whatever, if there's a storm event for that area, insurance straight away. But we know, look, insurance is one of those things like banks. Don't get me started. So a good use case again for smart contracts is for artists, for musicians. Maybe they're not being looked after by their record label. They're not receiving any of the funds from the streaming services. Yet if all of these were locked into a smart contract to say, okay, if you get X amount of plays, then this is the revenue that will come back to you. Then that can't be changed. It can't be shifted. It can't be, nobody can go, ooh, we're not going to pay you this month. That's not how it works. It's just going to happen, right? So these are all things that you can look at. They're all real world use cases. But again, the contract's only as good as the code. And the code is law until there's a bug. Code is law until there's a bug. And if we go back to our Oilers example yesterday, not from yesterday, I was listening to the Oilers podcast, the founder. He said the exploitation was found, it was only a very small exploitation where they'd put in a small amount to trigger something, and then they'd be able to withdraw more than they put in. So it was oh, Duolingo's telling me to extend my streak. And as I said, they managed to recover all of those funds, but they didn't know about it. It was just like this little hole until it was exploited. So code is law until there's a bug. That's essentially what that means. And again, I've said before about the 2016 DYOR hack where 60 million was lost. Well, we've just given you the one of the Oilers one where 200 million was drained. But again, they got all of that back. But audits, open source code, and community oversight, we all get to have a say in it. We all get to look at that code. Okay, maybe you're not a coder. I get that. Maybe that's where my story was going before. I couldn't afford to have someone to build a website for me, so I went and learnt to write code myself and build websites. But now, maybe you're not a coder. I certainly don't consider myself a coder. It moves so quick. But again, you don't even need to be a coder anymore because you can put it into an AI portal and it will tell you what it is. But you verify everything that you get involved with. Otherwise, you don't know what you're doing, do you? Now, the future of trust, blockchain isn't about removing trust at all. It's about moving it into code. It's about math. It's about ensuring that you have done all you can and looked at everything you can look at to ensure that you're going to be looked after. So, as I said, don't trust, verify it. Take it through. There's plenty of companies out there now that will run audits too. You can get pretty much any blockchain independently audited and verified, particularly if it's open source. We got smart contracts that run on the likes of Ethereum, on the likes of Solana, on Avalanche, on Cardano, all separate blockchains that allow smart contracts to run. I'm pretty sure you can even run smart contracts on XRP. In fact, you will be able to. In fact, you probably already can because there will already been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of banks using it. Doesn't matter what you think or feel about XRP. Doesn't matter what you think or feel about any of them. They're all written in code, and that code is immutable. It'll execute the way it's designed to execute until it's completed. So don't trust, verify. That's the key. Don't trust, verify. Now, that's not pessimism. That's empowerment. That allows you to be in full control. Remember, we've spoken about the things you can't control. Maybe we can't control what government's doing directly. Maybe we can't control what the banks are doing directly. But we can control what we do about it. And if you're just joining us, guys, head over to drewsdaily.com, get the Sovereign Wealth Kit. You'll be able to download that, or even the DeFi checklist, and find out more about me, who I am, who I help, and potentially how we can work together. I'd love to have a chat with you. Even if nothing comes to it, we'll have made a friend, made an acquaintance, and I'm all for that, for sure. So smart contracts are really the shift of control back to the individual. I'll say it again. Smart contracts are the shift of control back to the individual. Ooh. Oh, I do believe we're having a little earthquake. Can't be the trains, they're too far away. Yep, no, we're still shaking. There you go, you were here with me when we had my first earthquake in Japan. Apparently there was one the other night, Harlem felt. They were just they were not a very big one, just little aftershocks, just little. I've experienced worse in New Zealand. That's not to say that there's not bad ones here, because there is. But yeah. Anyway, guys, this has been a bit of a short one this morning. Been great to be here with you. Always finish with this. You create everything in your life, so you might as well create something freaking amazing. You create everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. You can only control what you can control, and you can control how you react to anything. You can control how you show up. You can control your attitude about different things. So we create everything in our life. You might as well create something amazing. I will say he kone rā. See you later. And ka kite anō. I will see you again. Have an amazing day. Make it an amazing day. And we'll see you tomorrow. Last live stream for the week. Tomorrow we'll be around the same time. We've got a big day tomorrow. We're going to Disney Sea tomorrow. It's going to be fun. Anyway, ka kite anō. We'll see you again.